pretty much every empire sooner or later decides to go into Afghanistan, and pretty much every empire that goes into Afghanistan gets its ass kicked.
Yeah, yeah. Afghanistan is unfortunately on the route to somewhere. For instance, the Russians wanted warm water ports, so the idea was to get into Afghanistan. The British, on the other hand, wanted to get into Persia at the time, well, now Iran, so they had to get through Afghanistan. Alexander the Great wanted to conquer India, so he had to get through. So it's on the way somewhere. And unfortunately, on the way also means that it's a bad place to go through. It's the Hindu Kush Mountains, the desert, things like that. And that doesn't help the conquering army, who feels that, we're just passing through, don't mind us, but they get their ass kicked on the way.
They also seem to leave their technology behind, their so-called superior technology that they're going to use to conquer. It all just seems to accumulate in Afghanistan. So you might have a hut with a flintlock left from the British, with a Kalashnikov from the Russians, with a Stinger missile courtesy of the CIA.
Yes, exactly. There's the place is littered with the old Russian tanks, the old T-72s all over the place, and you've got a lot of the flintlocks were the British encouraged the local Afghan or Pakistani gunsmiths to make them, rather than letting them import better weapons, machine guns. So you've got all that accumulated. You've got magnificent swords and knives that came over with the Persians. So it's just and to the Pashtuns, to them, owning a weapon is like owning a sports car here. It proves you're a man. And they own several.
Much is made in the States about how well the troops are armored and protected, but we're not really a heck of a lot better with the equipment we've sent over.
Not at all. And in fact, General Hillier makes that point. We had 20 years of liberal ignorance on how our troops were so badly under-equipped through the Cold War. We entered Afghanistan with the infamous Iltis jeeps, which were good in their day, but that was 20 years ago. They were used supposedly as battlefield taxis. Now Canadian soldiers were patrolling with them through the Afghan streets, and we had several injuries because of the fact that they had no armor underplate underneath them. And then they were replaced by the Gladenwagen, the G-wagons from Austria. And there again, they were put out on patrol, and once more they were. We took hits again and again, and I list them all in the book. We have been very ill-equipped for Afghanistan. Now we've got the South African-built Nyala RG-31 armored vehicle, and it too has apparently had its defects.
There is some good news in the book. I don't want to say that it's all done. We've done some things better than others, and it tends to be off-battlefield stuff.
I interviewed the RCMP officer who was training the ANAPs, the Afghan National Police. When he got there, they were patrolling in flip-flops, and he manages to get them trucks, manages to get them walkie-talkies, and teach them how to frisk people instead of just shooting them on sight. I managed to interview the Captain Tony Petrelli, who is the reservist in the CIMIC team, and his work in with the medical facility nearby. So there is some good news. Afghans have more access to medical care, security. Even just the local shurias coming in and talking to people and maintaining some form of village life than before we got there. So yes, we are doing good.
And the SAT?
The SAT team, that is our great secret weapon in Afghanistan, the Strategic Advisory Team. We sent in the men, and they said, yes, this is what we can do to help the Karzai government move forward. And then they finished their term of office and they left. And apparently, President Karzai said to Rick Hillier, where were all those Canadians? Where are they now? Could you bring them back? And Hillier got the SAT team, and they've been rotating through six-month basis. They are, I call them the Sheila Frasers of Afghanistan. They can go anywhere, do anything, sit in the highest level and advise. And I was fortunate to be able to get hold of them, speak to them and interview them. The things that they ask for, they've put on benchmarks in my book about in order for this to happen, this has to happen 5 years before, it has to reach this stage. They are Canada's secret weapon, and no other country, not the Americans, the British, have a SAT team like that. It really is something.
They seem to be doing a pretty good job considering that they've got an unfocused mandate, crappy equipment.
Extremely high morale. I was on the base with them, and I would go out and patrol with. I think it was more of a liability than anything else. I was the guy who wouldn't duck and say, "Oh, is that the road? Get out!" And I was also too old. They were all my daughter's age. They're all 22, 23-year-olds, and we'd jump out of a helicopter at the ground, and I'd say, "Can I wait for the stairs?" It's they're extremely high morale. They are professional soldiers. This is what they've trained for. And there are deaths, but as General Hillier once said, "Hey, it's our profession. Soldiers die. That's what we do." They being professionals. Afghanistan has been a great proving ground for them. Canada missed the Vietnam War. We were in Bosnia, Somalia for a little bit, but suddenly here we're able to get training. We're able to get better equipment now. Suddenly we're proud of our military, as we should always be. But now we see them in action.
The book is Canada in Afghanistan, The War So Far. I've been speaking with the author Peter Pigott and Canada in Afghanistan, published by the Dundurn Group.